We've all seen those numerous articles in scientific and psychological journals claiming that listening to metal is good for your health. But what about listening to only metal? Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's Riff of the Week. Ever since I started writing for Metal Digest back in 2022, I've only listened to metal. It's been an interesting journey because metal has always been my one true love musically. It's always the standard listening for me. But ever since I was young, I made it a point to listen to other kinds of music because I wanted to be a well-rounded guitar player. So if it had guitar in it, I'm talking blues, funk, flamenco even. If it had a guitar in it, I wanted to listen to it. Except country. I can't do it. I hate it. Plus just the volumes of classic rock to learn from. I liked rap as a kid. I'm into old Motown and R&B and other stuff too. I wore out that self-titled Sublime record when I was a kid. And then as I got older, I really forced myself to listen to all the new music because I didn't want to become one of those people that only listens to their childhood albums and hates new music. But the past couple of years, I've basically made listening to metal one of my jobs. Pretty much every week, I write over a dozen reviews of new metal albums for Metal Digest. And then every Friday, I listen to all the new metal albums that drop except power metal. And then for the podcast, if the podcast is about a band and their upcoming album, then I'll listen to that album plus their back catalog for comparison. And I do that over and over again. I don't have any time to listen to anything but metal. And I love it. There are definitely worse problems to have. I wonder if maybe I've traded in one set of problems for another, because I have to admit, eventually as I got older, I did sort of slide into that. I became that guy that listened to Opeth pretty much all the time and, some of my other favorite albums, and I realized that new music was kind of becoming a blind spot for me. And the moment I realized that, I knew I had to do something. Starting Heavy Metal Philosophy and joining the Metal Digest staff pretty much solved that problem for me. But now, I hardly ever go back and listen to my favorite records anymore. I've got this long queue of new metal albums to go through in order to do my job. And also, I used to listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't hardly ever listen to podcasts anymore. So I'm left with an auditory diet of 100% metal. I'm kind of like the listening equivalent to one of those carnivore people.
Carnivore Diet fixes everything. For the past 3 weeks, I've only been eating gecko lizards dipped in butter. It cleared up my acne, raised my credit score, and made me less racist.
And I can't help but wonder, should I be eating some vegetables? Are my workouts going to suffer if I don't ingest carbs? Let me be clear. I do eat vegetables. I'm talking about my media diet. This is a metaphor. But seriously, I wonder if this is bad for me. I've got 4 jobs, and so I schedule relaxing time, and I force myself to do it. I was like, okay, at this time, I am going to relax. At this time, I am going to play video games. But it feels weird, like, to schedule alternative listening, to schedule time to listen to a blues record or Ray LaMontagne or something. Let me whip out my phone. Tuesday, 8 to 9 p.m. Listen to Bill Withers. I know. But then again, maybe there's nothing wrong with it. A while back, I realized, hey, I'm reading nothing but fiction books. And I should probably read some nonfiction. I should learn some things. It can't just be action and adventure all the time, so let me get some of this nonfiction in. And yes, it's good that I did that, but I don't really feel any different. And it's probably because I'm dumb, but reading nonfiction has significantly slowed down, has reduced the amount of books that I read every year. When I was reading fiction, I could just devour a novel in no time, but now that I'm reading mostly nonfiction, it takes me a while. I have to read it slow and I have to reread it to really digest the material. Okay, but now we're getting off topic and this analogy is no longer working. Okay, back on topic. Maybe it's no big deal to listen to only metal. I feel like I'm missing something, but also I feel like I've gained a lot too. I know so much more now than I did before I started this show because I dive deeper. I've been forced to look further than I normally would on my own. Well, forced is probably the wrong word. Maybe obligated? I don't really have the word for it, but I feel responsible because I want to do the best job I can for you all. So tell me, have you ever felt this way? Have you ever thought, I need to listen to more different kinds of music? Have you ever made a project of it? Have you ever been like, I'm going to listen to a bunch of 60s jazz this month? Anything like that? And while you give me your feedback in the comments or social media, let's talk the riff of the week. Usually the riff of the week is a newer song because usually the podcast is about something that's coming up, some new album from some band that I'm looking into. But since the theme of this week is missing some of the classic stuff that I used to do all the time, let's pick one of those songs. And this one's one of the heaviest songs ever written. But real quick, before I name the riff of the week, let me get a sip out of my mug first. There's Guinness in there because I'm recording at night. That's right, Heavy Metal Philosophy mug. And you can get more Heavy Metal Philosophy swag at johnbarbas-shop.fourthwall.com. Links in the description. So yeah, back to the heaviest song ever written. One of them at least anyway, Scourge of Iron by Cannibal Corpse. And that'll play as the episode ends. But first, did you catch last week's podcast? Speaking of insane death metal bands, last week we covered Ingested and the evolution of their sound leading up to their most recent album. You know, there's this thing nowadays where if I say deathcore, most people are going to think Lorna Shore, Slaughter to Prevail, but I mean more like that early deathcore, like Job for a Cowboy, Fit for an Autopsy. And I also think those are good bands to compare to this one because those two bands have also evolved a lot over the years. You saw how much praise I just gave to Job for a Cowboy on their new record Moon Healer, which is not deathcore at all. It's full on tech death now. And then a couple of years ago on that latest Fit for an Autopsy record, Oh What the Future Holds, I mean, what a dramatic evolution that was. And I think Ingested is doing the same here. If you're on YouTube and you want to catch that, just click right here. If you're audio only, no problems, links in the description. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.